Many people have terrible habits around photography. You see, habits are some of the most important things for creatives, photographers, and just people in general. If you don't have good habits, it's difficult to get good or be productive at anything. And for many people, photography is just something they do every now and then, but it's not really a part of their life. Therefore, photography isn't effortless because even the little things take effort. It's hard to focus on capturing the moment when your attention is consumed by all the little things, like even just changing settings in your camera. But if you can apply what we learned today for 30 days, photography becomes effortless. And I don't mean effortless in the sense that it's not going to require work or take effort. And I also don't mean that you can stop doing this after 30 days because then if you stop, you'll stop getting the benefits. I mean that if you can reach 30, you can reach 60. And if you reach 60, you can reach 90 and so on and so forth. 30 days is just the first hump. You see, many studies say that habit formation takes at least 8 weeks. And 30 days is obviously much less than 8 weeks, but it's enough to get the cycle going. And if 30 days sounds like a lot and you want to start with a smaller number, you can. So this is about integrating photography into your daily life with good habits so you can get to the point where you don't have to even think about it, you just take photos. And that's how photography becomes effortless. And most people won't get that far, but that's okay because we don't have to worry about that yet. Let's just get started. Habit 1. Always bring your camera with you. The first habit we need to build for photography to become effortless is to have your camera on you at all times. Seriously. It sounds bloody obvious, but you can't take pictures without a camera. Now, this doesn't have to be a camera. You can always use a phone if needed or if that's your camera of choice. But pick your tool of choice and make sure you always have it. Even if you don't think you're gonna need it, you're just running errands or you're just gonna be out for a quick second. I can't explain the amount of times that I've gone out, realized it's a gorgeous day, reach down to take a picture with my camera, and realize I didn't bring it with me. Regrets. So now I take great effort in making sure I bring my camera everywhere, because it's often that many of my best and interesting images come from me just living life. I mentioned this in a previous video, but we all have wildly interesting lives. Now, I'm not talking about some movie scene type of life or anything like that. I just mean that our lives are interesting in their own unique ways, and we all have interesting lives, we just don't think of them as interesting because we're so used to it. And so the things we are used to seeing, we're used to seeing. But if you truly think about it, there's not one person out there in the entire world that is living the exact same life as you. And if you understand this, then you realize that all your experiences are unique, no matter how small, minuscule, or boring they might seem. And the common phrasing is that art imitates life. The main interpretation of that is that you must live a life to make great art. Another interpretation of that, and the one that applies today, is that no matter what you're doing, as long as you're living life, there is always an opportunity to capture a beautiful moment and create art. So start bringing your camera everywhere with you and start paying attention and noticing what you're starting to take pictures of. Your eyes will begin to notice things you've never noticed before. Your feet will begin to take you to places you've never been before. And this is important to note because our lives are more than just the camping trip we took last summer. And reality is more than just a highlight reel. Our lives are an intersection of everything that is happening within our lives, interacting with everything out there. The world. And so there's plenty of beauty to be captured in just the everyday slice of life moments. So starting today, wherever you go, your camera goes as well. The more you have your camera with you, the more photos you'll take. And the more photos you take, the more good photos you'll get. And the more good photos you get, the more better you'll get. And the better you get, the more photography becomes effortless. So before you leave the house, instead of phone, wallet, keys, it's now phone, wallet, keys, camera. Habit 2. Change your settings wherever you go. This one is not so much a requirement, but a very good practice to keep. Wherever you go, you want to build a habit of changing your settings on your camera. This means whenever you enter the room, whenever you exit the room, whenever the lighting, scenery, and time of day changes. Why? Because that way, when you pull up your camera to take the photo, the exposure is already set and you can just capture the moment. You won't be struggling and fiddling with your camera to get the exposure and settings right, only to look up and realize that the moment has passed. And obviously, if you shoot full auto, you can ignore this part. But I shoot more or less fully manual and oftentimes aperture priority, meaning that whenever light changes, my exposure will also change. And I never want to be fiddling with my camera and missing the moment, because trust me, that happens way more often than you think. So this is just a good habit to build overall. You don't have to be super strict about it, but if you can work on and build this habit, it becomes automatic. Especially if you're shooting on something like a Fuji, all the exposure settings are on the body and lens of the camera, which is why I like shooting Fuji in the first place. They've got manual exposure dials for everything. Aperture, shutter speed, ISO, which also means I can adjust and change my settings without turning the camera on. It's just, okay, probably shoot wide open, lower the shutter speed, raise the ISO here, etc., etc. And if you can master that, then you're golden, because you really won't have to think about photography anymore. Now obviously that's the next level skill, being able to expose your camera without looking at the screen. And you don't have to get that far yet. Personally, I just recommend learning to match the exposure of your camera to whatever room or situation you're in. That way, whenever a moment comes, you're ready. All it takes is a quick snap and you're back to whatever you're doing. Effortless. Habit 3. Take walks often. The final habit that you want to build and integrate to make photography effortless is walking. Seriously, walks are the most important thing. Especially if you are a street, landscape, or travel photographer, walks are an essential component of your photography. Actually, walking is almost all of your photography. So if you want to become a better photographer, learn to love walking, because that's a lot of what we're going to be doing here. The good news, however, is that walks are great for your mental state. For creativity, they allow you to step away from the work, clear your head, and approach the work from a new angle. Similarly, if you're someone with a busy life, walks are a great way to distance yourself from whatever's stressing you out and causing you to be overwhelmed. The point is, it's a healthy practice I'd recommend for anyone, not just photographers. And if you're a photographer, there are plenty of moments that you'll want to capture when you're out on a walk. Because regardless of where you go, whether it's downtown streets or just your neighborhood, there are going to be things that catch your eye. And therefore, the actual mechanism that drives your photography isn't the camera you use or the skill you have as a photographer. It's the love for being outside or whatever environment you choose to be in. Why? Because the more you're in a place where you like and enjoy, you think is beautiful, you find interesting, the more you'll take photos. And naturally, the more photos you take, the better photos you'll have and the better you'll get. That's how you make photography effortless. By placing yourself in an environment where photography just happens simply because you love the environment itself. You're not thinking, time to go out and take photos today. No, this is just your daily walk. You do this at this time, on this day, every day, whatever, and you bring your camera along with you, and all of a sudden all these beautiful moments start getting captured. So if you pick an environment you love, photography becomes more enjoyable, more effortless, and you'll get better photos simply because you enjoy being there. In essence, the person who enjoys his or her environment will take more better photos. So obviously it doesn't have to be purely walking, that's just what it is for me. For you, it could be concerts, it could be weddings, it could be the wilderness. Find a place you enjoy and photography will get easier. So let's sum this up real quick. If you want photography to be effortless, try building these 3 habits. First, bring your camera everywhere you go. You can't take photos without your camera or phone. Second, get used to changing your settings. If your settings are always set, always ready, you'll be less likely to miss the shot. Third, take walks often. The more you enjoy where you are and the more often you go there, the better photos you'll get. Do any one of these 3 habits for long enough and photography becomes effortless and automatic and you won't have to think about it. And if 30 days sounds like too much, try a week or 1 day or 5 days or whatever. So anyways, I hope this helped. If it did, please share this with a friend who you also think it might help. Also, be sure to check out my new photography zine, The Sinking Sun. There's only a few copies of this, so grab one while it's still here. And as always, guys, thanks so much for watching. Have a great day. Peace.